Hey, what's happening, everybody? So, excuse me if I'm a little tired. I just had a really hard training and it was really good. And on the way back, I had an idea about a. Actually, I just had a thought the other day, and then I rethought about it today, and wanted to share it with everyone because I believe it is a very important and very doable thing we can do to just make us feel way better very quickly and feel re-energized, feel just feel much better. And that is to this video is going to be about your environment and how putting yourself in an environment that's more aligned with what's going on within you, how that can tremendously help. You don't have to do it permanently. Let's say within you you're a peaceful, quiet, maybe introverted um, person, you know, personality, then, it might suit you more. It might be energizing if you're in quiet nature, things like that. But sometimes it can also work in an opposite way. So I don't want to get too into that right now. The point that I want to make with this video is a very quick fix to re-energize you a tremendous way is to try to seek silence. And it's hard to do nowadays. I'll give you an example, okay? I lived in Los Angeles, and I never really thought about air quality, never thought about noise pollution until I moved to Los Angeles. And actually, it took me a few years living there to really start to become aware of it. I used to drive out of LA on the weekends, like around Friday, and what helped me notice it was that when I would exit the major freeway there, the 405, when I'd exited about an hour and a half south of LA, um, just you could just smell the air, and you could smell trees, and you could smell like grass. Even you could smell just thousands of smells. And same with the silence as well. You could start to hear like crickets, and you could start to hear frogs, or you could start to hear a lot of things. So it's not just a sound thing. Smell, air is important. How do you describe that? That's not really stillness. I mean, it's another one of our very important senses, is our nose, our smell. This morning before I went to the gym, there's these flowers here that grow in these trees, and I tell you, man, they are everywhere, and they smell gorgeous. It's like honey. And this morning before I left for the gym, I just had a inhale in one of these flowers, and it just helped the day. It's amazing. I want to go into why I believe it's so energizing. Okay, so living in LA for about 5, 6 years, I then started to appreciate silence, clean air, started to appreciate my health, and I moved into you could call it the country, about maybe a couple of hours inland from the ocean. I actually found a place up in the mountains, all orange and avocado groves, and my place was like on a 13-acre land. My nearest neighbors were 13 acres away. And just within days living up there, just the silence is amazing. You could hear, I could hear, sometimes I actually woke myself up once, or startled myself once, just because it was so quiet. I could hear my digestive, my stomach rumbling, and I was just like, what was that? You could hear things outside moving, like taking steps. And they say that when you're out in the wild, small things can sound really big. So, for a while I was freaked out by what was actually maybe just a little bird or squirrel or, very small, even mice, they sound like big things. Um, so bear with me, there's a point to all of this, and I'm going to get to it pretty soon. Up in the mountains, up when I was living there, the fridge used to turn on, bzzz, and then I would become aware of that, and then it would turn off, and it would be real silence. And I learned so much living up there. One of the things was just how much noise we are constantly surrounded with. Like, for example, the fridge is one that no one really notices. But can you imagine? Like, I do audio production, so I produce music. So, usually, when you produce music, you record and you have lots of different tracks, audio tracks, kind of like layers of a pizza. Each layer has a different sound. It can be guitar, bass, drums. Now, if you look at, how most of us live and try to like count how many tracks are going on, it's, like when I lived in LA, I never noticed it. To me, it was just one big track of sound. But if you break it up, you've got traffic, you've got maybe a plane flying overhead, planes flying overhead, you've got maybe people talking, and then you've got those are the big major sounds. Then you've got maybe the TV in the background or the radio. And it keeps going, it keeps going. And, then you have all these other sounds that could constantly be going on that you're just not aware of, like maybe a light bulb that's buzzing or a fridge that's on. And, to most people, those sounds are considered silence. But really, it's not silence. It's just constant, you know, subconscious irritation. Or I'm not going to say irritation, but maybe it's just it's just noise, okay? And noise takes away from silence, and silence is where we draw energy from. And I'll tell you why. Because when you have like the fridge, the buzzing light bulb, TV, traffic, whatever, all these sounds all happening at the same time, if you look at production, like when you produce music, the more you have, it starts to crush everything, and it all becomes just noise. And that's why really beautiful recordings, especially like older recordings, if you look at the 70s, even 80s, or before, they were very much more simple, and it was from a place of silence. You would have a guitar, another guitar, bass, and here's why it's energizing, and here's why we love it and crave it. It's not because there's less happening in silence. The funny thing is that there's actually more happening, more stimulation, because when there's silence, you start to notice like birds, the sound of the wind going through leaves. You start to notice smells, flowers, the grass. It's just an explosion of different things that aren't overpowering, they're subtle, and it's interesting to the mind. Our mind loves complex things. It's much more complex than if, let's say, you live in a city and all you're hearing is just one wall of sound. So, the fact is that when you are living in so much noise, it's a lot simpler on the brain. And when there's so much air pollution, there's just one smell. You're not smelling a million different things. You're smelling an overpowering mix of pollution and smoke and whatever that's in the air. But if the air is really clean, if you go out into the countryside, then you can start to distinguish so many things. It becomes so complex. And like I said, we all have very, very sophisticated, brilliant minds, and our minds are drawn to things that are more complex. That's why some people, I work in music, and some people prefer imperfections in music, like a real band instead of electronic drums, because a real band is not perfect, and every snare hit or every hi-hat hit or every bass line or every guitar chord is just not the same as the last. Every single one is completely unique. So it's kind of like a playground for the mind. You're just witnessing something very organic and full of information, full of data. And we love information and data. Our mind craves it. So just to make some little bit more sense of all of this, when you are subjecting yourself to a lot of noise pollution or air pollution, um, it can become mind numbing, because it's just the same, same, same. You're getting a wall of sound constantly or a wall of pollution, smell. And it's the same with eating and everything, all your senses, okay? But let's just focus on those two, sound and smell for now. So, day in, day in, day out, being subjected to the same things, um, it can become mind numbing, it can become draining. So, my advice for anyone out there is, you know, I'm not anti, how our world is progressing and cities and all this. I think it's brilliant, and I think that yes, we're learning from a lot of our mistakes, and I think our future cities are going to be beautiful. The air will be clean. Um, so I already see it, here in Asia. Like I visited Singapore when I was in California, visiting, cities like San Francisco. There's a lot of places in California that are very, very forward thinking, and I can see that things are getting better and will get better. But for now, we have to be aware of this because it's a powerful, simple thing we can do is just go for a drive or go for a walk, go out into nature, just sit in a park. Um, Try to become aware of all the sounds and noises I was talking about. Like if you, for example, where I live here, I have a room and a bathroom, and originally they put the fridge in the main room where your bed is. But I moved it out and I put it in the bathroom so that I can close the door and I'm not going to hear the buzzing of the fridge. Okay, like silence to me is sacred. It really is because it's where your mind can rest and draw a lot of energy. And as I said, you can start to listen and hear and notice a really detailed and complex array of things that are going on, of life that's happening. Same goes for the smell. So it's worth thinking about your environment. It's not all mental stuff for us to feel better. There's things that we can do, physical things like change our environment, go out for a hike, on the weekend go out into the countryside, go for picnics, go to the beach, take your shoes off, touch your feet to the earth, feel the earth that we live on. It's this huge organic thing that's alive, and we are, part of it, and you could argue we come from it. So reconnecting with it is it's a huge, I guess you could call it a cheat move or just a huge bonus rocket booster, button that you can push, and then you're going to feel better. Yes, I know that you might have to overcome thoughts of like, oh, I'm too lazy, I'd just rather stay at home, or blah, blah. But you know what? You've got to build that discipline up. Life is going to need it. You're going to need discipline in life. So do it once a week. It's worth it because here's the thing. After you've done it, you're going to be so glad that you did, and that's how it works. So, yeah, I hope this video helps and, go out and just breathe some clean air, go on a vacation, go into a park, like I said. And if you can build it into your routine, like, if you work somewhere, you can sort of like, for your lunch breaks, go into a park or um, somehow build it in so that it becomes a habit or like a ceremony or a routine. And then that way it can become more of a part of your life. So, some things to consider, and I'm going to go back to enjoying some silence. So, adios for now. Remember, yeah, it's not all about learning how to tolerate or be patient or accept, things. Yeah, that's important. But you can always also change your environment. So it's not just about just deal with where you are. No, balance, remember, is very important. So, have the ability to accept and tolerate and be patient and, what you have. But then also, on the other hand, use effort, wisdom, energy, drive to try to place yourself in an environment that energizes you, okay? As often as you can, even if it means moving and living somewhere new. Alright, see, my TV's died. No, it's still going. Cool. Right, so sending everyone out there good vibes, and if you have any requests for videos, just post them down below. Otherwise, I'm just going to go with the flow and do what I always do and kind of talk about what's on my mind. Alright, have a good one, guys. Bye.